Hey, this is Sydney, and welcome to SaaSync. After onboarding your data into SaaSync, QuickBooks and Xero users will see a screen that looks like this. If you select the Manage Data tab, that will likely have a numeric indicator. You will see a screen with 3 tabs on it: Records, Subscriptions, and Products. As a brand new user, we suggest that you start with the Products tab. From here, what you see are all the products, sometimes called items, that exist in your system. What is important here is to look at the column that says One Time. What you can do is look through these items or products to determine if there are product codes that are always one-time charges, as opposed to subscription charges. Examples of one-time charges might include things such as training, initial setup, transaction fees, etc. If you have product codes that are always one-time, you can go in here and select them. What that will do is that will immediately start reprocessing transactions that use that product code and send those transactions through as one-time charges. The next thing is to go to the Records tab, and here we can see sub-tabs called Pending, Completed, and All. Pending records are records that come in that do not have enough necessary information to automatically process, so they have to be manually entered. Completed records are records that have been processed, either manually or automatically. If you have transactions that have all of the required information, or are auto-generated in your system via repeating templates, Teddy will be automatically processed by SaaSync and will display in the Completed Records tab. The primary items on an invoice include the product, or item code, and the beginning and ending service periods for the invoice located in the item description. The other thing to note from the Completed tab is that if you have a transaction that needs altered, you can edit it from this screen. If, for example, you wanted to ignore this transaction, you can do so by selecting Ignore. Or perhaps you need to change a subscription charge to be one-time, you can do so by changing it and clicking Update. If we return to the Pending tab, we see the transactions that require manual entry. We have placed links to several FAQ articles in the description of this video. They give instructions on best practices for coding your invoices so that you rarely have to manually edit a transaction. That said, there are probably cases where your historical invoices may need entered manually, or feel free to reach out to SaaSync support, as there may be ways to automate getting historical data into the system. Hopefully you are using product codes, or alternatively account codes. The quantity comes from what was coded on the invoice. You will need to select whether it's a prorated invoice. If it's the first invoice in a subscription, it's likely not a prorated invoice. An example of a prorated invoice might be a customer that starts a monthly subscription with 10 seats, and then 3 weeks into the service period they decide to add 5 more seats. That would be marked as a prorated invoice. You would then select the initial subscription that it belongs to. And finally, you will enter the service periods for the invoice line item. You will give it the service start, the date they added the extra seats, and the end date for the prorated period, which would be the anchor date, or end date of the initial subscription. After entering that information, you would select Save. In this particular example, the invoice is not a prorated invoice. So we select an existing subscription if the appropriate one exists, or create a new one if it doesn't. The service period start date in this example matches the invoice date, and we finally give it an end date and select Save to create the subscription. The final tab to note is the Subscriptions tab. Neither QuickBooks nor Xero have the concept of subscriptions, So SaaSync uses the invoices and various transactions, including payments, in those systems to create subscriptions. However, when a customer churns, there isn't a record in either of QuickBooks or Xero to identify that a customer of yours has churned. What we do is SaaSync maintains a list of all of the subscriptions that we have generated, along with past due and cancelled. From the Past Due tab, we maintain a list of subscription that are likely churn candidates, along with an indicator. These subscription are churn candidates either because their invoice history ended or their last invoice went unpaid. If you find a subscription for a customer where you know they have churned, you can go in and select the gear icon for that subscription and then select the date that you desire to cancel the subscription. In this example, we see the next invoice date is a long time ago in the past, February 14th of 2021, so we'd go in and select that date and save it. We also have a feature that will auto-churn subscriptions if we detect what we believe to be a cancellation. We have included a link to a support article on this feature in the video description. We hope this overview on how to use SaaSync was helpful. We encourage you to reach out to us at support@saasync.com if you have any questions or concerns. We are also always happy to join a call to visit with us one-on-one if it would be helpful. Thanks, and have a great day.